What's up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall, and I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky, and today's case is about a 16-year-old boy named Scott Kologi, who on New Year's Eve decides that he's going to open fire on his family's celebration. And just before midnight, instead of hearing fireworks, the family hears gunshots. This is the story of the Kologi family murders. Listeners' discretion is advised.
So, Becky, something crazy happened.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What?
Well, on this Saturday morning, Craig and I were awoken by a slithering snake on the ground.
Oh my God.
It was our snake. It was Chewy, but it scared the crap out of us because I don't think he's escaped ever. Like one other time when I first got him, but past that point, literally never. So we all of a sudden just heard marbles clinging on the floor because my husband is a collector of all things, including marbles. And it jolted us awake, and Craig sits up in bed. And he's silent for a while. I know he's checking to make sure things are okay, that there's no murder in the house, And all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, Chewy's on the ground. I get up and see my snake just slithering into our closet. I was like, oh my God.
No,
I
that's
know.
crazy.
Poor little Chewy.
How did he get out?
Well, there was this tiny little hole on the top of his cage that I had his light clipped into. I clipped his light into the roof of the cage, and it kind of made this little opening that I really didn't think he was small enough to get through. And it's kind of funny because Craig's dad, one time he was watching over Chewy when we went to Edmonton, and he was like, are you sure this little hole up here that he can get out? And I was like, no, it's fine. Of course
He got through that hole.
And then he of course gets through it. I was like, fuck. So,
are you going to tell his parents?
I already did.
Oh, you did?
I can't help it. It's kind of funny, right?
It is. They're like, saw that coming.
Yeah. Craig's dad, I think, just laughed.
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy that he got out. Not that I'm a super fan of snakes by any means.
Yeah.
Or, I can hold them. But if I woke up to one, I would probably shit my pants.
I mean, it's what nightmares are made of. It kind of seems like.
There's a snake in my room.
Got
a snake in my boot.
I got a snake in my shoe.
It's from Toy Story.
Oh, missed your reference.
Got a snake in my boot.
Well, there you go.
There you go, Bev.
And anyways, we got him back. He's fine. I closed the hole a little bit more, so now I don't think he can get out, but a little frightening considering I'm going to Mexico in a little over a week.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't escape then.
Yeah.
You never know what your cats will do to him.
Yeah, I was shocked my cats didn't put a mark on him. Thank God they must have been downstairs or something, because holy crap.
You could have woken up to a much different scene.
Yeah, I could have woken up to a slain snake, just
Oh God, you would have felt so terrible.
I would have felt like shit, but we're
my
just lucky that he didn't go hiding somewhere in the house to not be found ever again.
And then die.
Yeah, well, or get into one of our condo neighbors' houses.
Ugh.
Anyways.
Then you're forced to get rid of him because, the condo board says only if he's small or in
only
a cage.
If he's not an escapee, but
you're like, oh, got a little artist over here. Escape artist.
Yeah, so anyways, it all ended up good, but definitely a noteworthy story.
I would say so. Well, I'm glad he's okay.
Thanks.
I'm glad you're okay.
Thanks.
Glad Craig's okay.
Thanks.
All right, Bev, let's get into our story today. So this story begins with the marriage of Linda and Stephen Kologi in 1997. Linda had a child from a previous relationship that Stephen took in as his own. And then the couple continued to have 3 more children, 2 boys and a girl. So they had a total of 4 kids. The Kologi family was well known in Long Branch, New Jersey. There had been generations of that family that attended the local high school and grew up there. Stephen and Linda, in their early years of their relationship, had a lot of financial strain. However, it's said that Linda's top priority was her family. She was an amazing mother and always took great care of her family. Stephen also had the same values. He was a mailman and he was an amazing dad. He did everything possible to make sure that they were taken care of. He was known to often take many side jobs just to make ends meet. The Kologi children had a fun childhood. The oldest 3 kids all attended the same high school, and eventually they graduated, and at the time of this case, the youngest child, Scott, was 16. By this age, he was diagnosed with autism, schizophrenia, and to everyone outside of the family, he was seen as a very happy and kind kid. He did, however, seem a little developmentally slow, but was also very articulate when speaking. Now, because of Scott's diagnosis, he was sent to a different high school than his siblings. Because of this, no one really knew him. He didn't have very many friends, so he just spent a lot of time with his family hanging out. As Scott got older, when he reached the age of 16, his mental health was deteriorating. In early December of 2017, Scott often would think about killing his family members, and he would often tell them about it, Bev.
My God.
Could you imagine just be like, hey, Bev, I'm going to kill you?
I mean, yeah, I feel like we didn't not say that to each other, Becky.
Yeah, but it was like in a rage where like,
yeah.
You pissed me off or I pissed you off, and it's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I intend to kill the whole family.
Yeah.
It would be scary.
Yeah, his was more like just like out of nowhere, like, oh my God, my brother's maybe going to kill me?
Yeah.
No, not our baby brother, Scott. No.
But is he? Okay, so that's weird and a little freaky, especially when you have a brother whose mental health is clearly deteriorating, and then he has these thoughts of killing you. I mean, those two things paired together are undoubtedly scary.
Oh, absolutely. And here is just a bit of an example of what their life was like and the concern they had for Scott. One of Linda's sisters had actually been living in the Kologi basement, and one night they decided to have a game night. Scott held up a game piece that ended up being a revolver, which I don't know what game is a revolver. Like
Monopoly?
Maybe Monopoly, yeah.
Yeah.
But he pointed it at his aunt and said, I'm going to kill you.
That's scary, especially like if he said it deadpan, you know? Just like,
for sure.
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, not like clearly joking, right?
Yeah.
Like serious.
Not like, oh, I'm going to kill you.
That must have like ruined the mood of that game. Like, okay, we're going to pack it up now, Scott.
This took a turn.
Go take your space. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And at another time, he had said that he doesn't want to kill anyone, but the time may come that he has to. So,
whoa.
Yeah, so Scott's aunt was very concerned about her nephew, and she actually mentioned that to Linda and wanted to talk to her about it. She told Linda that she thinks that they should get Scott some help.
Yeah. I would say him wording it and phrasing it in that way is actually scarier than just being like, I'm gonna kill you, right? Because it's like, yeah, maybe I don't want to, but I have to. There might be a time where there's no other option but to do this. So it's like freaky.
Yeah, like where is your brain at right now, right?
Yeah. Why are you threatened by your family?
Yeah, like what is going on?
Yeah.
The problem that arises is that Linda ends up being really protective of her son. And I think a little bit to his detriment.
That's unfortunate. I would say one little side note is I think that if you have a son who has multiple diagnoses, I think it would be natural to be a little bit more protective, right? You don't want them to be labeled this crazy person because they're different. Mm-hmm. So I would say that even if this is something that he's saying, you might attribute to, I don't know, his mental health as opposed to intent or like something going on. And you don't want people to have this negative perception of your son because he already has like 2 diagnoses that have kind of made him different throughout his life. So Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, and you want to keep this on the download, right?
Yeah, of course.
So Linda wanted to keep it so much on the download, though, that she told her sister that if she ever told anyone, she would kick her sister out.
Whoa.
And she's living with her, so she's like,
well, I gotta keep my mouth shut then if I don't want to live on the streets.
I need a place to stay.
Damn, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, a little neglectful if your sister's coming to you with a legitimate concern and you're just like threatening her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe Linda should have taken it a little more seriously, no?
I think so too.
Especially because your son is diagnosed with schizophrenia and you never know exactly what's going on in his mind at that moment. Like, what if he is hearing voices that tell him he has to kill his family? Although I'm not sure how his schizophrenia is expressed, but like, what if that is a symptom of his schizophrenia, is that he hears voices and he's being told something that is creating this motive, right? Like, it's kind of something I think you would want to at least speak to your doctor about, or
a mental health professional.
Yeah.
In some capacity,
psychiatrist or whoever is helping your son, like maybe bring it up.
Exactly. So, Bev, not long after that conversation between the sisters, the aunt was noted to have moved out.
Oh.
Now, I'm not sure the specific details, so we can only speculate. One of two things. One, she felt uncomfortable and was like, it's time for me to leave.
Yeah.
Or maybe she did tell someone and Linda's like, get the F out. You betrayed me.
Yeah. Like, I would say maybe she's scared.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I would think so too, because there wasn't much to note about it. And you'd think if she told someone, there may have been some repercussions.
Maybe there would have been more information about it.
Exactly. But there was not really much. So
the aunt moves out.
She's out. Now, Scott's grandfather, who he was particularly close to, actually showed his worry and told his daughter-in-law about it as well.
Whoa, so now she has her sister and her father-in-law expressing concern.
Mm-hmm.
So does this prompt her to do anything more serious about it, or does she kind of say the same thing to the grandfather? Shut your damn mouth. Just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they were kind of a little naive to it as well, even when the grandfather brought it up.
Okay.
And now the grandfather actually only brought it up because Scott was often talking to him and in front of him about killing people. So that prompted him to talk to Linda and Steven about this issue. Now, Scott's parents actually did bring it up to him.
To Scott.
Yeah. But Scott got really angry with his grandfather for ratting him out.
Oh, God. That seems like a red flag. Because if you had zero intent, you could just tell your family. I was joking. But if you get mad at the person who, quote unquote, ratted you out, that shows a little more serious intent. Like, you told them of my plan, bitch.
Like, how dare you? So that obviously was a problem, but they worked through it. But the family was really concerned. Even his parents, like, they obviously knew something was not quite right about
all of this. I mean, it's not the first time he's mentioned it. It's not even the second time he's mentioned it, right? So it's kind of a pattern at this point.
Exactly. And shockingly, even at one point, Scott himself actually asked his mom to see a therapist.
Wow. So he's reaching out.
Yeah. He says, like, something I know is not right. Like, he's a logical boy.
Yeah.
And he knows. However, the reaction to that was his mom said, no, you can't go, because she was so fearful that someone would take him away from her and their family. So she was scared about what the ramifications might be. So she completely just denied it.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I understand and empathize with her point of view because no one wants their son to be taken from them. Yeah. Like, especially if what if he was taken to a psych ward or something like that? And, you know, I mean, you don't want that outcome for your son. But at the same time, if your son is feeling these emotions enough to ask, that I would take that. You'd hope that you would take that seriously, despite your feelings about losing your son.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, you would have hoped that would have been the catalyst.
And I think also we're coming from the perspective of, I heard your intro, I know what happens, So for me, I have a quite different perspective. Whereas like the mom is kind of like, hey, let's not be too rash in what our decision right here, because the outcome for you, my son, might not be good. And so I do empathize with her, but I have some hindsight that she doesn't have. So,
Yeah, it's easy to say that, right?
Yeah,
like what
totally.
we've been saying. So, well, Bev, the concerning thing is a couple months leading up to December and going into New Year's, Scott became completely infatuated with his older brother's AK-47. First of all, why you got an AK-47? Is that necessary?
Yeah, that seems a little bit extreme there.
Yes, I think so. Like, I could see a handgun, but AK-47.
Like, damn.
That was hardcore. Scott was known to, do a lot of research on the weapon online, and he wanted to learn everything about it.
Oh, God.
He would also take it out of its case or wherever it was locked up and regularly, play around with it, get the feel of it. Now, with all the family's concerns, I found that super weird that no one took this seriously. It's like, okay, he's starting to kill, and now he's obsessed with a gun.
And he has access to one.
Yes.
Like, we have the triple combo right here that, is very foreboding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if that was my kid and I noticed that and heard what he was saying, there is no effing way that there would be a single gun accessible to my kid.
No doubt. I think we live in a different culture, though, in Canada. Like, we don't have as much free access to guns here as, say, in the United States. Like, I don't think a lot of family households just have guns, no? Like, I don't know of any family members that I know. Our uncle who is in the military. Our uncle who is in the military. But I feel like there's a good reason for our uncle who is in the military to have guns. He also lives on a farm. But, say, city living, I just don't think that's part of our culture here. So it's a little bit harder to, understand that, any household will just have, an AK-47, locked up in their house.
Yeah, in a cupboard.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
It's weird to us.
Oh, for sure.
What the fuck?
Even the thought, Jamie's asked me before, would you ever get a handgun just for protection? I'm like, protection against what?
Yeah, exactly.
I should knock on wood because that's what people say. But I feel no need to have a gun.
Same.
Ever. And you know what? We went for my birthday to a shooting range and I was filled with so much adrenaline. I don't know.
I was scared.
Yeah, it was thrilling, but also I think I don't need to do that ever again.
Yeah, I know. I felt the same way. Good experience, but I'm good.
I was so fearful that I was going to kill someone.
I was afraid that without even thinking, I was going to have the gun still in my hand and be nervous and turn to the left and just shoot somebody, that I was I'm good without this.
Yeah, those guys that watched over us, they put the fear of God in me of those guns. So I was only forward, only forward.
Only forward, same.
And I shot one gun and it was a revolver.
Yeah.
There was so much kickback. My hand was shaking so bad. I did not hit a single target after that. I was so disappointed, but also no control over it.
Yeah.
So
I think we just have such different cultures. We know in the States, guns are a thing, but here, not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much, guys.
I don't know anyone besides our uncle that has a gun in their household.
Same. Actually, quick side note, because it's a fucking wild story.
What?
Do you remember when we lived at our house, my uncle came to visit, right?
Oh.
And my dad was playing with this gun or checking it out. And my uncle forgot to put the safety on and didn't tell my dad. And my dad ended up hitting the trigger and shot the gun in our house. It went through the door, through a window,
Mom's
through
brand new
a chair.
She was pissed about that.
She was pissed. And our dog, who has sensitive hearing, could barely hear for a month. And I think my dad was scared because if anyone was around him, he would have killed us.
He was mortified. I've never seen Dad have that look in his face ever.
Ever.
Even to this day, not again.
Yeah. So for me, I was that, no, on good. Mom's like,
No guns.
You're never bringing guns to our house again.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Fair point.
why is there
Fair
a bullet
point.
in there? You're not like shooting it. We're
Yeah.
not at a gun range.
Like, why wasn't the safety on, Uncle? Why?
Yeah. There was very many unfortunate circumstances to have that happen. But
Yeah, so we learned the danger of guns pretty quick. And
No
I mean,
guns.
having an AK-47, like I said, the triple combo with him wanting to kill someone, his mental health deteriorating, and having access and doing research on a gun.
concerning.
Again, concerning.
Very concerning. Yeah, exactly. So over that month, Bev, there's not much to note. The same things are going on. He's still obsessed with his gun. His mental health is still poor. So we're going to jump right forward to December 31st, 2017. Scott's parents decided to have a New Year's Eve party. So they invited Scott's grandfather, his grandfather's girlfriend, his older brother Stephen Jr., and his girlfriend, Brittany. Now, while everyone hung out downstairs and was having a nice time, Scott actually stayed in his room.
Isolated himself.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
And unbeknownst to his family, he had brought his brother's AK-47, got it ready and loaded it, and was just hanging out in his bedroom. He had also found some earplugs, put them on. He wanted his ears to be protected from the noise. He was wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses. This was his Halloween costume from the previous year. He was the Terminator.
Oh, God. That is ominous as fuck.
I know, right? Ugh.
So he's up in his room getting ready to murder his family.
Yes. So his plan was he was going to shut off his lights and just wait for his mom because he knew that his mom would come looking for him.
Be like, why aren't you joining the family celebration, son?
Exactly. So that was his plan. So he's lying and waiting in his room, lights off. Now, around 11:30, 11:45, just as Scott predicted, his mom made her way up to Scott's bedroom. And just like he anticipated, when she opened the door, he shot and killed her instantaneously.
Oh my God.
Now, obviously, his whole family heard.
Yeah, the shots.
Yeah, immediate fear coursed through their veins. His dad, obviously very concerned about his wife and son, goes running upstairs to see what's going on.
Right.
Scott
into the
kills him too.
crossfires.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
His father died on the stairs. And at that point, all the remainder family downstairs got so scared, and for some reason, they all ran into the kitchen. But Scott makes his way down the stairs, and he heads straight into the kitchen. And he just starts firing, Bev. He zoned in on Mary and his sister Brittany. Mary is the grandfather's girlfriend.
Right.
Brittany is his sister. Now, when Scott appeared in the kitchen, everyone panicked and dispersed. Stephen Jr. was able to run out the front door. Stephen's girlfriend actually hid behind the refrigerator and called 911. Their aunt and uncle were there celebrating, who I forgot to mention earlier, but they ran out the back door. So once Scott had shot Mary and Brittany, he ended up telling investigators that the only reason why he stopped shooting was because he saw his horrified grandfather kneeling beside Mary crying, and seeing that pain in his eyes and how upset he was, Scott
Like snapped
out of it. Yeah.
Because he's so close to his grandfather also.
Exactly. So he put the gun down, turned around, and went back upstairs to his room. And he just waited for the police. So he actively chose to spare his grandfather's life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Pretty intense.
Pretty intense. Like, damn, not only is it intense what he chose to do and who he chose to murder, but it's also intense if you really think about it. He's in the kitchen. He kills multiple people by opening fire on them. And then once he notices that his grandfather is mortified and terrified, he literally has to turn around, walk over his dad and his mom's bodies to get back to his room. Like, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. Like, he's completely unaffected by this. The whole time, his brother, who had talked to police, said his brother just seemed cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
there wasn't any, like, spastic movements, any rage, anything like that. It was just calm, like the Terminator.
Literally.
And as we know, Steven's girlfriend has already called 911 while she was hiding behind the fridge. There was also multiple other phone calls to 911 made, and they were made from Steven Jr. and some of the neighbors who had heard the shots. So when the police got there, they realized that this was a gruesome, bloody scene, and there were 4 people pronounced dead when the police arrived.
So we have the mom, the dad, the
grandfather's girlfriend,
and his sister.
Yep. And the police noted, same thing that his brother did, Scott was calm, cool, and collected. And they are very aware that Scott is the man who pulled the trigger.
Right.
So he is arrested, he's taken down to the police station, and they start talking to him. The weird thing is that when Scott is talking to the officers, he says he did plan to kill his family that day. However, that he was in kind of a daze. It's like he was watching this horrific scene unfold before him and couldn't stop what he was doing.
So he's kind of outlining the fact that he had a little bit of dissociation throughout this whole crime.
Yeah, exactly. He said it was almost in slow motion and that he was like behind the scenes just watching this show play out. It was really weird how he described it, but you're like, that must be really weird. How's he not at least upset if he knew he did it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. Now, Scott told the police that when he was loading the gun, he was actually questioning himself. Should he do this? Should he not? What was he doing? And he thought about how he was feeling at that time. However, anything that he thought and felt was not enough to stop him
from ultimately opening fire on his loved ones.
Exactly. And this is when Scott tells investigators exactly what happened. And he told them that he did have his lights off, and the reason why was because he didn't want his mom to see the gun. He just wanted to shoot her. He had also said that if he had seen his mom look at him,
it might have stopped him.
Game over. Just like how, like the situation with his grandfather.
Right.
He was fearful that that same thing would happen with his mom, and then he could not carry out his plan.
Which, this is a very unique case, I feel, because we have someone who says he's kind of in this dissociative state, but yet he's consciously making decisions that will help him carry through with this sick and twisted plan, like turning off the lights. Like, even though he questions himself, like, is like, nope, I have to make sure this plan goes on, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a weird type of dynamic where it's like, I'm in a dissociative state, but yet I feel like I have the wherewithal to actually make sure that I go forward with this plan.
Yeah, his rational choices really make you question, was he in a disassociated state or not?
Definitely.
Well, Bev, despite him being in a disassociated state, he was actually able to recount how many shots that he hit each person with, or an approximation.
No way.
Yeah, so he told investigators that he had shot his mother 5 to 7 times in the torso and chest area. And he had shot his dad in the back. Now, he did not give a number for that one, but I assume it's maybe just 1 or 2 shots. And he told them he shot his sister about 3 times in the chest and head area, and then Mary about 4 times. And he wore earplugs so that the whole incident ended up being really muffled. And he said he just kept shooting and aiming for their heads until everyone stopped moving.
Wow. That is so upsetting to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That is fucked.
Yeah, he had one goal, and it was death.
Like, he's shooting for their heads, and he just kept going until he saw his grandfather's mortified face.
Yeah.
But still, I'm saddened that he actually, like, kept note of how many times he shot each person. But it just seems like his wherewithal, like, he was very present.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to be that way.
Yeah, despite what he told the investigators. Now, the detectives are obviously kind of wondering what's the reasoning for this?
And why were you so committed to it throughout that whole night?
Yeah, like did your family piss you off or something? So they asked him, like, what were you feeling as you were doing this? And he said not much. He wasn't feeling really much of anything, except he said at some points he noticed that he was feeling angry.
Huh.
But only at moments.
Right.
But that emotion was somewhat fleeting.
Weird.
I
So
know.
he couldn't really relate that emotion to any specific
Incident
or anything?
Nope. He just said he felt a little bit of rage, and that was it.
And left it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the other questions investigators had asked Scott was how long had he been thinking about doing this? Oddly enough, he couldn't give them an answer. But based on their conversations with the family and all those previous comments about killing them,
Yeah.
they kind of thought it's been a while that you've been thinking about this, even though Scott couldn't tell them.
Right. So probably like, what did the family's accounts kind of show the police? Was it months? Was it weeks?
A couple months, like, because
Yeah.
over that, like the end of that year, that's when he had been telling them, like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And so that's the only timeline they had. What Scott did tell them was that he had started planning what he was going to do to his family the day of, which I think that's a lie, but that's when he for sure set that in motion.
Right. It could have been a very opportunistic plan, just like family is going to be here for a celebration.
Everyone in
Mom
one
and dad will be occupied.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mom will have a reason to come up and grab me. So
it's perfect.
I'm sure maybe the small details of exactly how it could have taken place might have been more recent to that day, but the plan to hurt his family had preceded months.
Exactly. I think
Fair.
so. Now, Bev, what is absolutely heartbreaking about this interview is that Scott's older brother, Stephen Jr., had to sit in the room as his guardian.
No way.
Yes. So the whole time Scott is being questioned and describing these murders, his older brother is there because he's the only family member that's left.
Damn, Becky.
And I watched this interview, and as Scott is describing this, he's so just like cold and like maybe not
matter
cold,
of
but
fact.
Yeah, matter of fact. And his brother is sitting there, and you can see him like covering his eyes, like trying not to cry and crying at some point. And he looks away as if almost to hide his emotion from his brother. The interesting thing to note is that Scott and his older brother, Stephen, were really close. They would hang out all the time.
Oh my God.
And so he's there having so much love for his brother.
But yet.
Watched his brother massacre his whole family.
Fuck.
Imagine what
His
that
brother.
like turmoil is.
Oh God, you'd have some cognitive dissonance for sure. Like, you love this person, but you're also like, fuck this person. Oh, and you're also like shocked by this person.
Yes. Like, how could they have done that? I loved him so much. We were so close. He could have killed me.
Yeah. Well, he
I
tried
got lucky.
to.
Yeah. So, you know, watching that, Bev, my heart just like broke. Now, during the interview, Scott at one point was taken out just to go to like the bathroom. And in this video, you can see Stephen throwing a cup against the wall, and he has a complete meltdown. Like, he was just holding it together.
While his brother was in the room.
Yeah. And it is so, so sad. So obviously we know Scott confessed to these killings. He was charged for all their deaths. Initially, Scott was charged as a youth offender. And so at that point, there was a gag order on his name and this case. So the community, although they know something bad had happened, they didn't really know.
They don't know specifics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scott's defense attorney pleaded with the judge that he be held in a mental institution. However, the judge absolutely denied it. And then about a year and a half after, the judge also decided that Scott would be tried as an adult. So after Scott knew he was going to be charged as an adult, he actually decided to meet with a counselor. And this was the very first time that he actually showed emotion about what he had done. He said that his parents were great parents and that he loved them. He acknowledged that he ruined a ton of lives and hurt a lot of people, and he was very upset with his actions. Despite feeling remorse, he was still to be tried, and 4.5 years later, in February of 2022, Scott Kologi's trial began. Now, in no surprising manner, Scott's defense attorney argued that he was insane and that because of his mental state, he could not be held 100% responsible for his actions. However, the prosecution said that Scott ultimately knew right from wrong. He knew what he was doing, and he knew he shouldn't have done it. He had the wherewithal to even admit to being nervous and questioning his own actions while loading the gun.
Precisely.
And then still made that executive decision to kill his family.
Exactly.
The prosecution also told the courts that this was a choice. Scott didn't kill anyone because he had to or snapped. He killed someone that he loved by choice. Now, the jury wasn't deliberating for very long. They were only out 5 hours. They don't have to discuss much. So when they came back, they had found Scott guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree weapon charge. And ultimately, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison for his crime. So unfortunately, this poor boy, he's only around 20, 21.
He's got a long life in prison, Beck.
He has forever in prison.
Yeah.
So sadly, he made a choice to kill his whole family, and he is suffering the max consequence for the rest of his life.
As I truly think he should.
Yes, he
You
should.
took 4 lives.
You should spend the rest of your life in jail.
Yes. And I don't believe that he wouldn't be a danger in the future, considering it was like there was no reason that he could even explain as to why he did this. So it would be easy for him to rationalize or kill
a stranger. Yes.
Like, they didn't upset you. They didn't do nothing. Like, all of a sudden you're just like, nope, this is my decision. I want to kill this person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he would be an immense danger to society going forward.
Absolutely. So he's right where he needs to be. Now, even though this was a sad case, it is definitely one way to ring in the new year. And that's all I have for you, Bev. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.